I had a great sense of how to take care of a child, how to shape them to grow into a cultured person who doesn't shout in public places or hit people. It's enough to simply adhere to certain obvious rules, put them to bed early, explain, enforce. I lived in this conviction for a long time, until my own children appeared. Then I realized that upbringing is quite a complicated process, in which rational processes often give way to survival instinct. My survival instinct, of course. I invite you to read Jesper Juul's book, Being a Husband and Father. I've complained about self-help books before, but this one is an exception. It gave me a lot and changed my life. Of course, I'm exaggerating. It rather confirmed my parental intuitions and allowed me to rely on a written source during this quite difficult process called family. But this guide allows fathers, those who want to actively participate in raising their own child, to defend themselves against certain natural behaviors of their partners, which often come down to digging us out of difficult situations with the child, because mommy must help, and mommy knows best, as the family choir often repeats. But that's not true. Juul directly states that it's a myth that a child needs the mother more. Apart from breastfeeding, the father is just as important and competent for the child as the mother, provided of course that he wants to be involved. This guide revolves around the topic of how to diffuse this phenomenon and allow the father to independently build his relationship with the child, without backseat driving, without comments like "you're doing it wrong," etc. It's not an easy path and can often cause friction, both in the relationship with the child and with the partner. But as I mentioned earlier, this is not a book for the faint-hearted. You need to be tough sometimes. I remember talking to a friend who complained that he was being pushed to the sidelines in critical moments, and I just laughed and mentioned this book to him. He was surprised that everyone struggles with similar problems, that the father is portrayed as the joker, but when important matters arise, he should step aside. What a mess it becomes when suddenly, in response to a comment like "give him to me," "he's always crying with you," you respond "he cries with you too." I had to say this a few times. Sure, you can take him. It's fine. You can do it all the time. No problem. But don't come to me in 2 years complaining that you have no time for yourself and you're a burnt-out mother. Original text, but you can quote it. It worked for me. It's natural that women have a closer bond with the child from day one, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It doesn't mean we can't calm, soothe, and comfort the child. Concrete examples are interestingly described on how to create space to build a relationship with the child on your own. There's no room for the mother to intervene. Maybe she can help, even through a crack in the door, because then the immersion effect works, and the child immediately follows the mother's voice. As a father, you must be certain of what you're doing. Sometimes a seemingly innocent comment may carry additional meaning. If you've already dressed the children correctly for the weather, and you're called back because they need another blanket or something, you can confidently thank them and say that you have everything that's needed. The child and your partner must feel that at that moment, you're in control of the situation. Even if later you end up standing somewhere in the rain without an umbrella, you need to endure it with dignity. Parenthood is also about finding balance. On one hand, it takes up a huge part of your life. It squeezes you like a tube, changes you like a wave in the sea, but you won't have anyone to complain to, and you'll regret not giving it your all, or at least your partner. It's about finding time for yourself in this whirlwind of tasks, not only as a couple, but also finding a small fraction of time for your hobbies. Another very important thing is the balance in the division of responsibilities. The myth of the patriarchal head of the family has long been buried, but Juul warns against being an emotional pushover, someone who doesn't care about anything and gives in to everything. If that's your strategy, you'll perish miserably as a doormat or some other unnecessary piece of furniture. Even if you don't care about the color of curtains, it matters quite a bit to your partner, and by leaving her with that problem, you delegate the decision-making and responsibility to her. Soon you'll be the household ATM if you have a job, and the guest who occupies the couch in front of the TV. The guide also includes many other tips, for example, not treating children's lives as personal projects, because later their lives will boil down to pretending happiness in front of their parents, and they won't talk to their parents about their failures, or they'll become frustrated. On one hand, a project means a lack of autonomy for the child, but on the other hand, I see that my child already needs some physical activity, and how do I decide on something without imposing it? I'm in a tough spot here. For me, this is a kind of contradiction, and I envy the system in other countries, such as in the USA, where young children go to sports camps with physiologists and athletes, who thoroughly assess the child, and based on that, provide guidance to parents on the best sports for them to pursue. If you can recommend something like this in Poland, I would be grateful for any tips. Juul also dedicates some space to violence in boys' lives and its role in shaping young men. At first I had the impression that constant roughhousing among sons was some kind of aberration, but it's simply a part of maturing, and one must know how to control this process at the right moments, and sometimes let it run its course. Children are not always able to resolve their conflicts intellectually. They treat everything as final and say things like, "I'll never play with you again," or "I'll never speak to you again." This and many political slogans are also based on the same mechanism, and it's clear that many of them have stopped mentally at a certain stage. However, let's not change the subject. I think every parent should read this book. I've already read it 3 times, and each time I found something new in it. I'm curious about your reflections. Please let me know in the comments and give this material a thumbs up if you liked it.